Most entrepreneurs think that they need to do everything marketing-wise to reach their first million. You know, they open up social media accounts, they begin posting on every platform, they start blogging, maybe they start a podcast, they start sending emails, they're making TikToks, they're making Reels, they're making YouTube videos, SEO, and they try all the new hacks of every blog they see or every video they see or everything that they come across on Facebook. But ultimately what happens is you end up burned out with little growth to show for it. And I can tell you from nearly a decade of doing this with thousands of brands, I can confidently say that your path from $0 to $1 million per year hinges on two things, and that is paid ads and email. In this episode, what I want to talk about is what I call the $0 to $1 million path. And in it, there are frameworks, there are strategies, there are philosophies that I personally believe and what I've seen are necessary to reach that first $1 million per year mark in an e-commerce business efficiently. And what I want to do in this podcast is I want to dive into what they are, what the strategies are, like what the path kind of looks like to paint that picture a little bit for you. And then I want to talk about deploying the necessary pieces in order in the 3 steps that I follow in order to do that. And then I want to tie it all together with what I call the 3 rules of profitable marketing, and how as you're deploying these and as you're getting from 0 to 1 million and you're walking that path, the 3 rules that I want you to constantly apply against everything that you do. All right, so that's what I want to dive into this just right off the bat with a little bit of like my background and where I first started to have some of these epiphanies and start realizing what it really took. And it all started really when I started my business. And maybe you can relate, but when I started my business, what's the first thing we all do? When I started my business, I went and I opened up every social media account that I could. I go and I open every network and I started posting every day. And then I learned about blogging and I started blogging 4 times a week. And then I learned about podcasting, not this podcast, a different podcast that I shut down, but I went and started podcasting and I learned about email and then Facebook ads and then Google ads and then SEO and then on and on and on and on. And I started consuming all the content from the gurus, from all the big names in the industry that were teaching, do this is the way, do this is the way. And as I did that, what ended up happening, at least for me, is I got really burned out. I was just like burnt toast at the end of the day. We had a small team. And you know, when you're going from 0 to 1 million, you're working with a lean team. And in my opinion, to get to 1 million, you need a lean team. You don't want to be labor heavy because it just destroys your margins. And so because you're lean, what usually has to happen is you have to do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself, right? And if you're trying to do all of these different things, you end up very burned out and your focus is very, very diversified. And as a result, you usually don't get very far. And so before I talk about what I believe you need to do, I believe the secret to all of this, getting from 0 to 1 million, is compounded focus. You know, there's a book by a guy named Greg McKeown. The book is called Essentialism. If you've never read it, it's a wonderful book. I recommend you go read it. And in the book, Greg says, and this really stuck with me, he says, only once you give yourself permission to stop trying to do it all, to stop saying yes to everyone, can you make your highest contribution towards the things that really matter. A non-essentialist lives in a chaos of too many choices, and an essentialist lives aware of the power of choice. And the best way that I could really picture this, and I have right in front of me from the book, I have the graphic here, is, you know, if you're in the center, would you rather make a foot of progress in a million different directions or a million feet of progress in one direction? Right? That's the representation of of what compounded focus looks like. If I take all of these things that I'm doing and say, I'm going to focus all of this and say, how do I make the furthest amount of progress that I can in one direction or maybe two directions? How much further will I get and how much faster will I get there? And so this was a book I had read in a moment of time. A few years into my business, I think 4 or 5 years in, burned out, doing everything, feeling like nothing was working because I was doing everything. I was trying to keep up with everything and it wasn't working. And I remember reading this book. It was close to that time when I had read this book. And I had a lot of epiphanies when I was sitting on vacation. I had $1.06 in my bank account. All my money was all of our profit was basically going to doing our own marketing. We had nothing left over at the end of the day. And it was around this time that I had also read the book Essentialism. And when I reflect on it, I realized I was doing so many things. So I had to focus and I had to focus on things that were high impact and low resource. Meaning, what are the things that, because I'm trying to get from 0 to 1 million, I need to be lean as I possibly can, because time is my greatest commodity. It's always running out and I'll never get it back. And if I have so much time and I have a small team and I have to carry the load, I need things that are going to have a high impact and take the least amount of my time as possible. And these are things that create leverage. And so I came to the conclusion, after analyzing and auditing brands we worked with, our own company, things that we had been doing, I learned that there were 2 marketing channels that produced nearly all of the revenue. When I say all, I mean upwards of 70 to 90% of the total revenue from the companies that we worked with, including our own. And those 2 marketing channels were paid ads and email marketing. Paid ads served as the source of predictable, ongoing new customer acquisition. So we're building our database of new customers who never heard of us, and then suddenly they heard of us and they took action, they bought, pulled out their card, and now they're in our database. And the second marketing channel was email. Email was the source of getting those customers to come back and buy again and again and again, therefore increasing their lifetime value. So those were the 2 marketing channels that we saw over and over and over again. One of the brands we worked with at the time, they were a health and wellness brand. And what we found was there was one ad, one Facebook ad we were running, that ad had produced over $200,000 in revenue in the previous 6 months. One ad. Since then, we've worked with brands that have ad campaigns stabilized for months and months and months on end, where we have ads running. I'm not telling you, these ads aren't fatiguing at 2 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. These ads are running 3, 6, 9 months. They are still producing and they have stabilized with hundreds of thousands of dollars in spend behind them. Now, these brands, I'm going to say this, they are beyond the 1 million threshold, but I share all of this to say if you can dial in and take your focus from all of these things you're doing and saying, I'm going all in, I need to get my skills up, I need to learn how to run ads profitably, which is another thing we're going to talk about. I have to learn how to run ads profitably, and then I need to take those new customers and the people in my database and start to monetize with email every week and every day on the back end to produce ongoing revenue that doesn't require ad spend. That was it. Those were the 2 channels that we saw again and again and again. And now I have had the pleasure in the last year of working with more than 120 brands in our coaching program that are doing the same thing in time and time and time again. I see people posting in our group and saying, last year I was producing $300 a month from my email in 6 months ago, and now I'm doing $300 to $500 a day in my email. We see things like that all the time. And it just further validates that if you leaned in, if you took and you compounded your focus on these things, you could predictably grow with new customers and you could get them to buy over and over and over again. And if you do both of those, I believe those are the only 2 things you need to go from 0 to 1 million. Now, the question is, though, with all of that, how do we do that? How do we do that? Because that's the question, right? Maybe you're sitting there and you're listening or you're watching and you're saying, well, Josh, I already do all these other things. I can't just stop doing those things. I am doing SEO, maybe social media is obviously the big one. I'm making TikToks, I'm making Reels, I'm YouTube Shorts. I'm doing all of these other things already. So how do you make a shift from doing everything to cold turkey going straight to ads and email? Well, the way that we do this is we do it by deploying something that I call maintenance mode. And the goal of this, first of all, is to create compounded focus on your marketing efforts when you're under 1 million. Once you get beyond 1 million, okay, great. Let's lean into some things that are maybe branding focused. Let's lean into some things that will really allow us to have like long-term benefits, but not really in the short term. And I'm okay with that. But after 1 million, we can lean into other channels. But what I want to do is I want to stay as focused as possible in these two things. And I want to give you another reason why I believe these are important. These are also important because whether I'm managing $100 a day in ad spend or $1,000 a day in ad spend, it's not 10 times more work. I mean, it might take an extra hour, 30 minutes to 60 minutes per week to manage that, but it's not 10 times more to manage 10 times more ad spend. If I'm sending an email to 100 people or 100,000 people, like some brands that we work with, to 100,000 people or 50,000 people, it's going to take the identical amount of time because I'm going to create that one email and I'm going to send it to the 100,000 people. And so to create this leverage, we have to have compounded focus, let go of the things that we're doing on the side and say, I'm going all in and I'm going to say, how do I master these two things? They're going to take me to that million threshold. And once I'm there, I have proven market fit. I have proven my products. I have proven that people want what I have. Now I can start branching out into other things. So to do that, we deploy maintenance mode. And now with maintenance mode, there are 3 steps to this. If you want to start considering what this shift would look like in your business, the first step is to take stock of all of your marketing efforts. I want you to get out a notepad or a piece of paper or something, and I want you to bullet everything that you're doing right now. We used to ask and survey and ask people when we met with them, how many hours on average per week are you spending on your marketing? And the average number was 12. That was the average number people said that we had between low and then higher numbers. Some people were spending 20 hours a week and it's just them. And the average number was 12. With ads and email, we believe you should not spend more than 5 to 7 hours per week between ads and email. And so the first thing you need to do is take stock of everything you're doing. And so what I want you to do is write down, I'm doing SEO, and then put a dash, and next to that, how much time am I spending on that? That's the first step. Then you go social media, blogging, whatever else you're doing, email marketing, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Google ads, whatever you're doing, break it all down, take stock of your marketing efforts, and write down how much time you're spending on it. Then the second step is to put everything that is not ads or email on maintenance mode. Now, what that means is you either need to kill it or cut it by 80%. So let's say you're posting 7 times per week on social media. Let's just say Instagram was the choice. I'm posting 7 times per week on social media. I need to cut that by 80% and be okay with it. So I'm going to have to either kill it or cut it. So I can just say I'm going to stop social media, but I know some people listening are like, Josh, social media is important. It's branding, whatever. I understand. I do find value in social media. I don't want to discount that. It is important, but cut it by 80%. So maybe don't kill it, but cut it. But there are some things you're doing, you might just, you should kill. You should just kill it altogether and say like, I'm just gonna stop doing this. If it's not having trackable, massive impact on your business right now, consider killing it. And then just think of the burden and the weight that will fall from your shoulders knowing, oh, I don't have to also create content for this, schedule this, plan this, etc. And if you're not doing something, like you're not on social actively already, hey, you're in good shape. You don't have to worry about doing anything. So you either have to kill it or you have to cut it by 80%. So if I was posting 7 times per week on social media, cut it down to 1 to 2 times per week, because now we're going to take that time and we're going to reallocate it. So step 1, we're going to take stock of all our marketing efforts. Step 2, we're going to put everything that isn't ads or email on maintenance mode. And then step 3, of course, we then need to invest in ads and email. And this is with time and money. Those are the resources we're going to invest. We're going to spend more time working on building out automations, our email flows, maybe building email templates, maybe building campaigns to produce more revenue, fine-tuning our pop-ups so we can increase the flow of people joining our list, maybe sending more emails. On the money side, it might look like saying, hey, how do I climb to higher spend thresholds profitably within the ad platform that I choose? Now, we are Facebook ads fanatics, so I would say Facebook ads is where most of our clients are. And so how do you climb through those different thresholds? So this is how we deploy things with these 3 steps. We take stock of things, we stop doing we put everything that is not ads and email on maintenance mode, and then we start investing more in our ads and email. If you could create that compounded focus until you reach 1 million, then and only then do you have permission to move into other things, to move into more organic stuff, to move into other strategies and start moving in from like email, then stacking in SMS and going from Facebook ads and stacking on Google and TikTok and starting to stack other platforms within that marketing channel. But I believe you need one paid ad platform in email to get from 0 to that 1 million threshold. Now, as we go about this, but wait, there's more. As we go about this journey, there are what I call the 3 rules of profitable marketing. And so as you go throughout this journey and as you're doing these different things, then what you have to do is apply these 3 rules at all times back against everything that you're implementing. Because the reason I call these the 3 rules of profitable marketing and not just the 3 rules of marketing is because profit is the oxygen of your business. And without it, your business, it's dead meat, right? It's just not going to survive if you don't have profit in your business. You're going to constantly be hemorrhaging cash. You're going to constantly be stressed out. You're going to constantly be staying up late at night. Money's going to be on your mind at all times. It's going to consume you to the point of anxiety, panic attacks, and eventually your business not surviving, right? If we don't have the profit built in, which is why I don't believe doing marketing efforts that are not focused on growing profits are okay if you're under 1 million. Now, I do think that you obviously are going to always want to be profitable in your business. However, as you grow and you ascend through higher levels of revenue, you can start leaning into things, I believe, that are on the branding aspect that may not go against these rules, that may not fully apply some of these rules to them because we're leaning into branding and more non-trackable things. But until you're at 1 million, I would even beg to say beyond 1 million, everything you do should be entirely focused on profits in your marketing, not running campaigns for the sake of brand awareness and in video views and things like that. It's just not worth it. We want to lean into profitable things. So here are the 3 rules to apply against all marketing efforts as you grow. And rule number 1 is if it isn't trackable, don't do it. And I can already hear someone in their mind saying, yeah, but Josh, iOS 14, we lost trackability with Apple tracking transparency or transparency tracking. We lost, we're not gonna have cookies. Google's doing away with all these different things. But here's the thing is, it doesn't matter. Sometimes things are not trackable from a logistical standpoint. I totally understand that. But you need to go in with the mindset of saying, how can I make this trackable? That might mean you need to build a product page that is not on your site and it's only a product page that you drive paid traffic to so you can actually measure, hey, if an order came through here, then this came from paid traffic. It might mean you need to lean into learning more about attribution. And I'm not going to dive into attribution on this podcast, but you can do at Facebook, like Facebook's dashboard will give you attribution, which is usually wildly off and inaccurate. You could do what's called manual attribution, and you could also leverage Google Analytics to look at attribution with UTM parameters, or you can even look into attribution tools like Hyros, Triple Whale, Northbeam, etc. And so you might just need to learn and say, hey, how do I make it trackable if it is not trackable? And if I don't know how to do it, how do I get my skills up so I do learn how to do it? And the reason this is rule number 1 is because if you can't track the results, you're not going to be able to know if the outcome is profitable or not. And if we're trying to be profitable in our journey from 0 to 1 million, then we have to measure our milestones as we go. We have to measure our progress as we go. And I would even say this, 50 years ago, pixels and internet ads and all of these things really weren't a thing 50 years ago. People were using, so what did they do? They used coupons. They had people bring flyers that they found into the building. They had them call a certain number on the billboard that was dedicated to whatever the marketing effort was, so that you could actually track the results of what was happening. Because the reality is, most things are trackable. Most things today are trackable. And if you don't know how to track it, go figure out how to track it. But most things are trackable to a certain point. It's never going to be 100%, but if you can at least go in knowing, hey, these Facebook ads are trackable. Email is trackable. And you'll be able to track 80 to 90% plus of the results from those two efforts, which is, again, why I believe those are both very important. So that's rule number one. If it's not trackable, don't do it. We're not looking for brand awareness. We're not looking for video views. We are looking for profit right off the bat. This is called direct response marketing. We want a response right away. The second rule if it's not profitable, you kill it. This is like yes, no, in or out. There's like no in-betweener stuff like, oh, maybe it's profitable. And so the reason it's called the 3 rules of profitable marketing is because profitable is the necessity within this. And so how we apply this rule is that if something is not profitable after the determined amount of time, you need to kill it. This might look like refining it, going back to the drawing board, maybe queuing up the next ad angle, maybe trying a different product entry point, or maybe trying a different offer. But too many brands, I believe, run non-revenue and profit-producing efforts. And so what you want to do is you want to measure first, is it trackable? Yes, great. Now that we're running it, let's use Facebook ads as the example. Is it profitable? And if it's not profitable, we are then going to kill it. It might mean killing it altogether. It might mean refining it. But the gist is we don't want to keep doing something that is below our profitability line. And that's why it is important. You need to figure out what if we're talking about ads, we need to figure out what your break-even return on ad spend is. And if you could calculate your break-even return on ad spend, let's say it's a 2. 2 is a pretty average range. Most people break even after cost of goods and credit card processing and shipping fees and pick fees and all that good stuff. 2 is usually a break-even standpoint for a lot of people. And so if 2 is your break-even ROAS, it means you cannot fall below 2 after those first few days of ads or after the amount of time that you have determined. And if you do, you then need to kill it. So that is the second rule. If it's not profitable, kill it. Sounds pretty simple, but a lot of times it's a lot harder than you think, because you get in and you get really attached to something and you want it to work and you try to force it to work and it doesn't. And the final rule, the third rule, is the opposite of that. Very simple. If it is profitable, you scale it. Now, first, just so we're all on the same page, I hate the word scaling. I think it's overused, it's overhyped. I don't believe scaling is what people think. People think scaling is linear. Like, hey, if I'm spending $100 a day and I'm suddenly at like a 3 ROAS and I had a 3 ROAS the last 3 days, I'm gonna then go from $100 to $500 a day and I'm just gonna get 5 times the results at 3 ROAS. Scaling is not linear. The way I like to describe it is, if you were to climb a mountain, you wouldn't look up at the top of the mountain and then just go straight up, right? You would have to go different paths. You would have some switchbacks in there. Sometimes you might take a wrong turn and you might have to scale the side of a cliff. Definitely not me, because Josh Coffey would die and I'm terrified of heights. So I would not be climbing that mountain or scaling a cliff. But it's never linear. It's not just from the bottom to the top, right? You usually have a journey that you go through. And so when I say rule number 3 is if it's profitable, you scale it. That doesn't always mean just increasing budget on something. It might mean just leaning heavier into that angle or that offer. Or let's say that we found some things in email, like email is really starting to work for us. Well, how do you scale email? Well, you could try to grow your list. Usually ads will come in there, but then also you can start sending more emails. We can start increasing our frequency of email and put more time into sending that. That's how I believe you can scale email, right? Starting to send more emails. Ads, you can start to scale horizontally. You can start to scale vertically. So if something is profitable, we want to begin to scale it, meaning if it's above the target numbers that we have, then we start to increase it. And so that is rule number 3. In all of this, what I would say is it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to be grinding something out. Like if you're just getting started and you're doing 50,000 a year or 100,000 a year, or you're sub 100,000, the idea of getting to 1 million might seem so far off. And so in that journey, you think it's hard to not do other stuff. You're like, well, in the efforts of getting there, I have time on my hands, so I'm just going to start doing all of these other things. But what I could say is this. I can assure you that if you take all the time you have and you focus it, you hone in on being a better copywriter for your ads and for your email, a better designer for your ads and for your email, a better paid media buyer for your ads, a better write better flows, and you lean in and run better campaigns, and you lean into those 2 things, you're not as far off from 1 million in revenue that you may think that you are. So to recap here, I believe the path from 0 to 1 million lies in focusing on 2 marketing channels. Those are ads, 1 paid ad channel, and email marketing. And in order to make that shift, you need to deploy maintenance mode. That has 3 steps. Number 1, we take stock of all of our marketing efforts and how long we spent on each one of those. And then we put everything that is not ads and email on maintenance mode, meaning we either kill it or we cut it by 80%. And then the 3rd step there is that we then take that extra resource of time and money and we invest it in ads and email. And as we're in this journey from 0 to 1 million, and we're focusing and honing in on ads and email, ads and email, ads and email, and we're starting to climb those revenue ceilings, we will apply the 3 rules of profitable marketing. And that is, if it isn't trackable, we don't do it. If it isn't profitable, we kill it. And if it is profitable, we scale it. Thank you so much for listening to the Ecommerce Alley podcast, produced by the legendary behind the scenes Dylan Counts. We want to say thank you for being our listener. If you did enjoy this episode, if you found this helpful, please send this to another e-commerce owner that you know would find it valuable. I know they would probably enjoy it. If you like this too, give us a rating. Join the Ecommerce Alley Facebook group. We go live every Thursday here in the studio. We do trainings, we do over-the-shoulder ad reviews, we do website reviews. It's very engaging, great time. A little over 2,700 of us there, I think, at this moment in time. Go to alleypodcast.com/group and it'll just redirect you to the Facebook group. But all of that said, we appreciate you and we'll see you in the next episode.